Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
You either getting paid or you owe somebody. Stop scrolling, because the man who just blew the entire Watson coronation narrative completely out of the water is not a Cleveland insider with team access. He is not an ESPN analyst with a hot take to protect. He is not LaShawn McCoy whispering in somebody's ear from a Zoom call. He is a linebacker, a brand new linebacker who walked into Berea from the New York Jets with zero organizational baggage, zero media relationships, zero financial stake in this quarterback competition, and zero reason to lie. And when reporters sat him down at Browns OTAs 2026 and asked him point blank about what he's seeing from both Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson, Quincy Williams said 5 words that should be running on a ticker tape across every NFL broadcast in America right now. Confident in the pocket, accurate, on time. Both of them. Both, not Watson, not Shedeur. Both. And then, as if the football gods decided today was the day to end this circus once and for all, Quincy casually dropped that both quarterbacks are asking him, the new linebacker from the Jets, for defensive intelligence. Equal access, equal curiosity, equal competition. I'm Dre Fiver from Dre Reports, and today, we are going all the way in on the most credible, most unbiased, most organizationally damaging evaluation of the Cleveland Browns quarterback competition that anyone has delivered this entire offseason. Because while the national media has been running Watson propaganda and LaShawn McCoy has been playing telephone with sources that conveniently always say the same thing, a linebacker with a Brian Dawkins philosophy and a Jacksonville chip on his shoulder just walked up to the podium and told the entire NFL the truth. Let's start with the most important thing about Quincy Williams, that nobody in the national media is bothering to mention when they cover his OTA appearance. The reason his evaluation carries more weight than anything you've heard from a reporter or a former player this offseason is not because he's flashy. It's not because he gave a long answer. It is because of exactly what he is not. He is not from Cleveland. He did not come up under Kevin Stefanski's system. He was not here during the Watson era when the whole organization was performing institutional loyalty every time a microphone got near their face. He was not embedded in the Mary Kay Cabot inner circle, where the Watson narrative was being fed and maintained through insider sourcing. He did not play for Todd Monken at a previous stop, and he does not have a relationship with Shedeur Sanders from draft season. He walked into Berea, as reported by multiple Cleveland beat reporters, specifically to replace Devin Bush in the linebacker room. And the first thing he did was watch both quarterbacks throw the football. No filter, no agenda, just a defender's eyes. That is the qualification that matters. And when you understand what Quincy Williams brings to that evaluation in terms of football pedigree, the weight of his 5 words gets even heavier. Because here is the detail about Quincy Williams that the national football conversation is completely sleeping on. His entire defensive identity, the Joker persona, the deposit is due everyday philosophy, the speed, and violence mentality that he brought with him from New York, it all traces directly back to Brian Dawkins, one of the most instinctively violent, football-intelligent defensive players in the history of the National Football League. A Hall of Famer. A guy who didn't just play defense, but who understood offense deeply enough to make every single offensive coordinator in the NFC East physically uncomfortable for an entire decade. Quincy has spoken publicly about how Dawkins gave him the concept of the switch, the idea that you become a completely different person the moment you cross that white line. Off the field, you're loose, you're laughing, you're joking. That's the Quincy people see in the locker room and at the podium. The second you step on that field, Joker mode activates. Chaos, violence, disruption. A linebacker who built his entire football philosophy on Brian Dawkins didn't just watch your quarterback competition for a month and shrug. He evaluated it through one of the most respected defensive intelligence frameworks in NFL history. And what did that evaluation produce? Confident in the pocket? Accurate. On time. Both of them. Now let me tell you why the timing and the context of when Quincy said this matters enormously, because this is not just a throwaway OTA quote getting lost in the news cycle. This came out of OTA 2 in 2026, the same media availability where Todd Monken himself sat at that podium and refused, again, to name Deshaun Watson as the starter. The same press conference where Monken said, and I want you to hear this clearly, that Shedeur Sanders has come miles since he arrived in Cleveland. Miles. That is not the language a head coach uses about a backup. That is the language a coach uses about a quarterback who is actively earning something. And in that same press conference, Monken called out Quincy Williams by name and said, quote, Quincy Williams has been here, a month? And you can tell he loves football. Think about what Monken just did there. He validated Quincy's football IQ publicly and explicitly, in the same breath that he validated Shedeur's development. Two validations, same podium, same standard, same press conference. And then the guy Munkin just publicly praised as a football lover walks out to the practice field reporters and tells them both quarterbacks are confident, accurate, and on time, and both are picking his brain for defensive pointers. That is not a coincidence. That is an organizational ecosystem that is telling you exactly where this competition actually stands. And here's where I need to give you my honest Dre Fiverr take, because I've been watching this Watson narrative get pushed by the national media since before the draft, and I have been waiting for something real to cut through it. Not a stat line from a skeleton crew OTA drill. Not a vague Todd Monken non-answer. Not an insider source who conveniently always reinforces the same Watson-first story. Something real. Something from a person with no dog in the fight. And Quincy Williams just delivered exactly that. Because think about the alternative narrative that the Watson crowd has been selling since the moment Shedeur Sanders put on a Browns helmet. They've been telling you the competition is a formality. They've been telling you Watson walked back into that building and immediately reclaimed the room. LeSean McCoy went on the record, as reported by multiple sports media outlets, claiming his sources inside the organization confirmed Watson was already the guy. Already. During OTAs, before a single padded practice, before training camp, before a single preseason snap, already. And then Quincy Williams, a man with no source relationship with any Cleveland reporter, a man who owes nobody in that building a narrative favor, sits down and tells the world both quarterbacks are asking him for defensive intelligence. If Watson was already the uncontested starter, why is he asking the new linebacker for defensive pointers in the same way that the guy supposedly below him on the depth chart is asking? Equal access means equal competition. It is that simple. Let me walk you through exactly what Quincy said word for word, because the specificity of his evaluation is what makes it so valuable. He was asked first about Shedeur specifically, and he talked about the confidence, the way he's picking up the offense, the growth he's seeing. And then the reporter, doing the job correctly, asked the exact same question about Deshaun Watson. And instead of giving two separate answers, instead of separating the two evaluations the way you would if one was clearly the starter and one was clearly the backup, Quincy merged them, both of them competing together, both of them getting chances to go against the ones, confident in the pocket, throwing the ball, being on time, being accurate, both of them. And then he adds the detail that turns this from a nice quote into an actual story. He says he's talking to both of them, trying to figure out how he can make his own game better. And then, almost like he caught himself being surprised by it, he said they asked for pointers too. And then he laughed and said it's kind of weird, actually. That laugh, that pause, that's the most important moment in that entire clip. Quincy Williams, a veteran linebacker who has played in this league and has seen plenty of quarterback competitions, was genuinely caught off guard by the fact that both of these quarterbacks were treating this like a real competition. Not one guy going through the motions while the other guy punches his clock. Two quarterbacks taking defensive intelligence seriously. Two guys who both want to win. That surprised Quincy. Ask yourself why that would surprise him if the competition was already settled. And now let me connect the Jacksonville detail, because this is the layer of this story that takes Quincy's evaluation from interesting to explosive, and I genuinely cannot believe nobody in the national media is running with this. Quincy Williams was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He grew up in Jacksonville. Week 1 of the 2026 NFL season, the Cleveland Browns traveled to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars on September 13th. Quincy told reporters at OTA 2 specifically that Jacksonville is circled on his calendar. He circled it the moment that schedule dropped. That is a game with maximum personal meaning for a guy who grew up there and started his career there. And the linebacker who just told you both Cleveland quarterbacks are confident, accurate on time, and asking for defensive pointers has every single reason in the world to care deeply about which quarterback starts that game. His first game against his hometown team. His first game back in Jacksonville. You think Quincy Williams is going to spend the next 4 months watching a fake competition and pretend the wrong guy is starting? The linebacker with the most personally motivated stake in Week 1 just confirmed this competition is real. Both quarterbacks are in it. Both are earning it. Both are taking it seriously enough to ask the new linebacker from the Jets what he's seeing on defense. Now let's talk about what Quincy's defensive philosophy means for the quarterback who ultimately wins this competition. Because the ball is oxygen detail is not just a cool slogan. It is a tactical argument for why Cleveland's defense in 2026 is built to serve an accurate short field quarterback. Quincy is not building a bend-don't-break defense. He is building a take-the-ball defense, a chaos defense, a defense where the opponent's possession is treated like trespassing and every turnover is a payment on the deposit ledger. When he says those 50-50 balls are actually 70-30 because we want that ball, he is describing a defense that is going to create short fields and extra possessions. And what does a defense that creates short fields and extra possessions need from its quarterback? Accuracy, timing, pocket confidence, the ability to take the gift and convert it without wasting it. Quincy just watched both quarterbacks for a month and said confident, in the pocket, accurate, on time, both of them. He is not just evaluating the competition. He is evaluating which quarterbacks fit the defensive ecosystem he is building. And he said both pass that test right now. That is Todd Monken's open competition confirmed by the defensive player who has the most tactical stake in the right answer. Here is the part of this story where I need to address the Watson apologists directly, because I know exactly how they're going to try to spin Quincy's evaluation. They're going to say, it's just OTAs. They're going to say Quincy is being a good teammate and not throwing anyone under the bus. They're going to say this is what players always say during the offseason. They're going to say wait until training camp. And I want to address all of that right now. First, the it's just OTAs deflection. The same people saying Quincy's evaluation doesn't count because it's OTAs are the same people who were citing Watson's OTA reps as proof he had already reclaimed the starter job. You cannot cite OTA performance when it supports Watson and then dismiss OTA evaluations when a credible defender says both quarterbacks are competing equally. Pick one. Second, the good teammate argument, Quincy Williams did not give a diplomatic non-answer. He did not say both guys are working hard and we'll see what happens. He was specific, confident in the pocket, accurate, on time, both of them, both asking for defensive intelligence. That is not a diplomat dodging a question. That is a football player answering a football question with football specifics. Third, the wait until training camp argument. I am not saying this competition is over. I am saying the linebacker with the best unbiased evaluation this offseason just confirmed it is real. And that is more than the Watson crowd has been willing to admit for the last 4 months. Let me also zoom out for a second and look at the complete picture that OTA2 painted, because the Quincy Williams quote does not exist in a vacuum. It sits inside a press conference where Todd Monken gave 3 separate signals that this competition is genuinely open. Monken refused to name Watson as the starter. Monken said, Shedeur has come miles. Monken validated Quincy's football IQ. 3 signals from the head coach, all pointing in the same direction. And then Quincy walks out of that same building and tells the media both quarterbacks are confident, accurate, on time, and asking him for defensive pointers. You have the head coach and the new starting linebacker reading from the exact same page without coordinating their message in any visible way. That is not a PR campaign. That is 2 independent evaluations arriving at the same conclusion from 2 completely different vantage points. Monken is watching from the offensive installation side. Quincy is watching from the defensive intelligence side. And both of them are telling you the same thing. This competition is real. Both quarterbacks are earning it every day. Here's my full Dre Fiverr read on what happens next in this competition. And I want to be completely transparent that this is opinion, not reporting. Based on everything we've seen from OTA1, OTA2, the Monken press conferences, the Quincy Williams evaluation, the Brian Robinson injury update that removed one of the main arguments for keeping Watson active on the roster, and the mounting body of evidence that Todd Monken's open competition is not a PR stunt. I believe Shedeur Sanders is tracking toward the starting job in Cleveland. I believe Todd Monken has already seen enough to know which direction this is heading, but he is running a legitimate competition because the organization committed to that process and because it is the right way to handle a situation this complex. I believe Quincy Williams walked into that locker room expecting to evaluate a coronation and instead found an actual competition. And that's exactly why he laughed and said it was kind of weird. Veteran players know what fake competition looks like. Quincy Williams saw something different. And I believe the linebacker who circled Jacksonville on his calendar from the moment that schedule dropped needs an accurate, confident, on-time quarterback to start that game. And based on his own words, he's found 2 of them. May the right one win. But here is the final point I need to make before we close this out, because I think this is the conversation the Cleveland Browns media landscape needs to have. The Watson narrative did not come from nowhere. It was constructed piece by piece through a combination of insider sourcing, organizational loyalty, contractual sunk cost reasoning, and national media inertia. The people who built that narrative had real reasons to build it. The organization had real financial reasons to prefer Watson. The national media had real engagement reasons to push the dramatic comeback story. And nobody inside that building was going to volunteer a quote that blew it up while they were still trying to manage the situation. Enter Quincy Williams, no history, No loyalty, no financial stake, no media relationship. Just a linebacker from the Jets with a Brian Dawkins philosophy, a Jacksonville circled on his calendar, and two eyes that watched both quarterbacks throw the football every single day for a month. And when they asked him what he saw, he told the truth. Confident in the pocket, accurate, on time. Both of them. The Watson agenda just ran into the one person in that building it could not survive. A newcomer with nothing to protect. You either getting paid or you owe somebody. That is the Quincy Williams standard. And right now, based on everything coming out of Berea, Shedeur Sanders is making his deposits every single day. Drop a comment right now. Is Quincy Williams' evaluation of both quarterbacks the most credible, unbiased assessment of this entire competition all offseason? I want to see what you think down below. And if you are not subscribed to Dre Reports, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now because we are the only channel covering this Browns quarterback situation with zero filter and zero agenda. Smash the like button, share this video with every Cleveland fan you know who is still being gaslit by the Watson coronation narrative, and I will see you in the next one. Dre Fiverr. Dre Reports, we out.